welcome again to your favorite program, The Arena. The Arena is a magazine program, like I told you earlier, in our maiden edition, that focuses on issues surrounding the economy for Mondays, and politics for Tuesdays, education and health for Wednesdays, sport every day, and general business that we do. My name is Abiola Ismail, your host, and today we shall be looking at the speech made by our president, the first African president, Nigeria President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the 78th edition of United Nations General Assembly, where he challenged the world that it is now for Africa to take its pride, to take its area of economy. He called on the leaders to look at Africa and bring Africa to the level where they are today, but not just to come to Africa and tap into our resources and leave. Now, let me give you just a brief of what Mr. President said at that just concluded meeting. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu challenged the world that if this year's theme at the just concluded United Nations General Assembly is to have an impact at all global institutions, other nations, and their private sector actors must see Africa development as a priority, and not just for Africa, but in their interest as well. That's what Mr. President told the world. He said that reinforced that call, that Mr. President reinforced that call at, to have the same level of political commitment and devotion of resources that describe the Marshall Plan. President Tinubu made a call while speaking at the just concluded general debate of the 78th section of the United Nations General Assembly. He pointed out that Africa's leaders have realized the underlying condition and causes of the economy, challenges facing today's Africa, which are significantly different from those of past war Europe. He said the continent was not asking for identical programs and action, but an equal firm commitment to partnership. Tinubu said Africa is seeking to enhance international cooperation with African nations to achieve the 2030 agenda. That is one point. That is the Sustainable Development Goal. He reminded the Council that there have been many predominations, yet Africa troubles, remains close to our hand. Now, all these were some of the points, postulated by Mr. President during the assembly. In the next 2-3 minutes, I want us to listen to what some of the points that Mr. President made during that assembly. Then we come back and do analysis on that. Then I will introduce to you, the guests that I have.
First address before the General Assembly. Permit me to say a few words on behalf of Nigeria, my country, on behalf of Africa, my continent, regarding this year's theme. Many proclamations have been made, yet our troubles remain close at hand. Failures in good governance have hindered Africa, but broken promises, unfair treatment, and outright exploitation from abroad have also exerted a heavy toll on our ability to progress. Given this long history, if this year's theme is to mean anything at all, it must mean something special and particular to Africa.
That was Mr. President discussing with world leader at the just concluded 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. I have in the house to discuss this issue two gentlemen. Both of them, they are former. The first one is former Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
And a former Chairman, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Mr. Sesan Okunade. Good evening.
Good evening, and good evening to my
My pleasure. Once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, when you look at what Mr. President now told the world at the 78th Assembly, everyone, were caught aback that what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying is what all other African leaders should have at least put forward, not waiting for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to said all that. In your own view, let's take it one by one. What is coming to Africa? Doctor, let's start from you.
Well, a number of perspectives to that speech. He spoke from the perspective of a Pan-African leader that is speaking on behalf of Africa. So there is a Pan-African dimension to the speech. There is also the regional dimension. At some point, he also spoke as a regional leader in West Africa, being, of course, the chairman of ECOWAS. And of course, he spoke as a Nigerian leader. At each of these levels, there are very important issues that he raised, one of which is what you raised about issues of neo-colonialism, exploitation of resources, and so on. And he cited in particular the example of DRC, that's Democratic Republic of Congo. And there are so many examples like that, even including this Niger, that is very close to us. So, and many African countries have been victims of that kind of exploitation. Unfortunately, some of these things also happen with the connivance of their local leaders, unfortunately. But it is a very, very important point that he made, that if Africa must progress, we need to roll back all those tendencies and allow Africans to better express themselves and to use the resources they have in their domain for their own benefit, and extract maximum value from it. So that was a very, very important message that he sent. And of course, he also spoke about, at least at the continental level now, about issues of, flow of arms, and how all these illicit arms and weapons have been creating all manner of challenges on the continent, and creating problem of terrorism and all manner of issues around the continent. So there are a whole lot of issues on the continent which he amplified, and rightly so, given the status of Nigeria, on the continent. Because in many ways, Nigeria is a leader on the continent. So it's only appropriate that he also spoke as an African leader.
Now, Mr. Okwande, you listened to the man when he was speaking, and you read what he said. In your own view, let's just first of all look at that speech holistically. What do you think about what he said?
I'm not disappointed by the speech of Mr. President. If you look at his braveness, eloquency, and also the intellectual that the president possessed, I was not expecting nothing less. Permit me to state that if you know him while he was governor of Lagos State, for you to have the boldness to face the then president, you know that he's a man that can stand before anyone to say what is needful at the appropriate time to get what is expected. So, alluding to some of the things that my guy here said, part of the things I discovered there is to speak to the issue, most especially area of exploitation. When you talk about the movement of ammunition, I don't think there is anywhere in Africa where we have the production of some of these arms. It's from the Western world. And part of the things they do is to exchange some of these things for our own natural resources. And it takes a man who has that boldness to say, no. If we have to take the bull by the horn, then stay where you are and let's make use of our resources. Even if we don't have the wherewithal, the technology, the process to follow. Before the advent of gas cooker, there is a way our parents were preparing food for us.
Yes.
I've sat on several topics, and when the issue of climate change was coming up, discouraging people on the aspect of fossil fuel, I asked, how can the Western world be challenging our main source of income? In as much as we're going to embrace it, we still have that to play around with.
Yeah.
So most of the time, you discover that the Western world look at our weakness, capitalized on it as if we are not better off. But speaking to this is a bold step to talk to the world leaders on redirecting the way things should go. We've said it that Africa is blessed.
Yes.
What we just need is to have the right set of leaders harmonizing their thoughts together, and I can tell you that the Western world will know that we have it. Because majority of even the challenges that are faced in the Western world, not too long you heard about what the hurricane. You hear different kind of, how much of it do we have here? Majority of the challenges we are faced with are locally created by us.
By us, yes.
Not natural disaster. So when you look in that perspective, you know that the Western world are taking advantage of us. And you need to say it the way it is for them to check. And I can tell you that certain signal has been passed to this leader. But one thing is, we've given them the word. They will go and rethink how much of it are we coming back to make adjustment in such a way that we can act the word that we have actually said. Is another thing that I want to look at.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Okwande. Now, I want us to look at the area of collaboration in Africa. The leaders. Let's leave or move away from language barrier, but there's collaboration. Now, how are we going to collaborate to ensure that all what Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, put forward to this world leader, bring forth that economic gain that we are expecting? Let's start from you.
Yeah, I think there is this after the African trade,
African Continental Free Trade
Continental
Agreement.
Free Trade Zone agreement that is actually being put together by African leaders. And I've asked myself, sat in several fora where we spoke on this particular topic of how can we enhance that collaboration. What is your strength? What is my strength? How can we metamorphose all these things together to come stronger rather than we challenging one another? It's a very good platform which I know leaders are speaking to, which our country seems to take a lead in making sure that we have it. And part of the things we're talking to in that area, which I've heard my guy, spoke to, is how can we have common currency in such a way that I'm sure today you know the value of naira to dollar. What is the value of sefa to dollar? We have different currency, but when you look at the developed, the Western world, most we talked about just dollar, pounds, and maybe when you go to the Asia, euro. You go to the Asia, you talk of their own currency too. It's not as much as what we have in African continent. How can we harmonize it in such a way that those that have the advantage, that competitive advantage with the Western world, can be of beneficial assistance to other ones that are just coming up? And I think it's an area that the leaders need to look into in Africa. How can we have a common ground in such a way that if I provide certain services to my African continent, it's not impacting on me negatively, while it's for them to grow? Is a common area where we must look into. Also, the area of security. How can we, guide our borders in such a way that it sounds interesting that we travel within even West Africa. And most of the time, the journey is as if you have to first go to UK, go to some Western world, before you can get to your own country. How can I be moving from here to Gambia and be spending 7 hours? These are areas where leaders need to look into. It should not be difficult for me to move within the continent because it's not that far. But the airspace, the direction at which we need to move, create that thing. And most of the time, most of the airlines that we make use of are from the Western world. These are areas of collaboration I feel our leaders need to speak to. When we speak together as an entity in Africa, looking at the resources that we have back out there, I keep telling people we have the natural resources, we have the human capital. Look at the people behind the system that we have in developed world. You will always see a black or two black men behind the scene. So what actually is the issue? Is having a leader that is willing to take the right direction, do the right thing that is needful for the people. And most of the time we allow the Western world, because of their gain, to misdirect us. But it's high time that we must come together, speak one language, not the individual languages we're talking of, but economic-wise, security-wise. And I can tell you that we'll become a formidable team that cannot actually be defeated.
Thank you. Doctor, what's your view on it?
Yeah, just to add to that, and you also highlighted the importance of connectivity. Because if we are talking about economic relations or economic integration, connectivity is key. Right now, to move a cargo from here to either Ghana or Togo or wherever, most times you go by road. Because you hardly can find all these shipping lines going directly from here to. Yeah. And just as he said, they first go to their hub, which most times is in Europe, before they now come down to. And there's no way you can trade effectively if you don't have connectivity by sea, connectivity by rail, and also connectivity by road. So collectively, I think African countries need to invest heavily in that connectivity. That's also investing in infrastructure, to facilitate the movement of goods and people. Because if there is no free movement of these things, there is no way you can trade effectively. Then secondly, the leaders must also demonstrate genuine commitment to the spirit of integration. Even as small as ECOWAS is, we know the kind of headache that businesses face just to move goods from here to Benin, to Togo, to Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. It's a hell of a problem. Human problems, what you call non-tariff barriers, numerous checkpoints, all manner of fees, levies, and all of that. And when you are confronted with all these barriers, hardly can you get anybody to come to your aid. So all these things frustrate the desire to work together economically. So there has to be commitment, of the leaders. Now look at the spate of coups now, particularly in West Africa. Look at the fragmentation it has created, even within our own small region. Look at the fragmentation. We are now closing borders, we are blocking airspace and all of that. So rather even moving forward, we are retrogressing. So the political aspect of it is also very, very important. So that all the leaders are on the same page, that we need to go forward with this. And the after is supposed to be resting on the regional economic blocks. That is the only way it can stand. ECOWAS is supposed to provide the support from our own sub-region. You have SADC in South Africa. You have COMESA. You have some group also in North Africa. You have East African Economic Community. It is when each of these regional blocks are standing well That is when you can now support the AfTA, which is Africa Economic. And by current accounts, it's going to be the largest trading bloc globally. We are talking of a GDP of about 3.5 or 4 trillion US dollars. You know? So it's a whole lot of opportunity. But again, we have to be politically committed, because that is the difference between our own space here in Africa and what you have in the EU, in Asia and all of that. That political commitment must be there. So there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done in the area of political commitment, in the area of connectivity, so that businesses can move around, because the business people are ready any day. Anytime they are ready. As long as there's money to be made, they will go there. So what we need to do is to remove the barriers for them.
Now, in removing the barrier, in 2013, 2014, I was in Ghana for the West African Taxation Conference. And at that event, they emphasized more on single currency for West Africa. But unfortunately, till today, we've not been able to achieve that. That was what brought the question that the connectivity, the agreement in Africa, which currency is going to be at the top? But that issue is still on the table. Now we have the AfTA, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, that has been signed about 2-3 years ago. Until today, we have the headquarters here in Nigeria, but we are still expecting that manufacturers here in Nigeria, manufacturers in South Africa, manufacturers in Angola, wherever, so that we have this exchange of ideas, exchange of products and all that. But in your own view, we have the market, as you rightly said, but the dynamics of ensuring that we have this thing going on is yet to get on board. And we are talking to leaders, the world leaders, to come to Africa. What do you think we should do to ensure that we have that playing ground for the world leader, for the business, for investors, all of them to come to Africa?
I will start by saying, as a father in the house, if you do not do what is needful of you, and an outsider come and try to do as if you don't know what you're doing, you know the implication of that. Speaking to what Dr. Muda said, the political will to me is even the first area for you to go. I must be able to see in as my brother with the same goal of developing Africa. That's where we are first lacking. Every man is just doing its bit, thinking that will take us far. It won't take us anywhere. And that is the area that the Western world are capitalizing on. They divide and rule. Pick on this person, give him what he wants, and use the other one to attack him. Otherwise, if we speak with one eye, with one mind, with one heart, we'll be better off. So we must first address the area. That's why AfTA is still suffering. Because up till now, everybody is saying, which currency are we going to use? Is it going to be CFA? Is it going to be Naira? Is it going to be Naira? But when you see that in the euro, there is always this idea of, if it is yours, it is mine. But in Africa, if it is mine, it is mine. And I will not share with you. So the political will on the part of our leader is very fundamental. Once we are able to get that right, other things, like you said, tell a business, are you aware that a businessman can leave this country today and is ready to go to Australia? Because the fundamental thing is, put plus and minus together, am I going to make money there? If the answer is yes, he's out there to do it. So likewise in Africa. And we have the natural resources that we can explore and make available. Majority of the things that have been developed here, where are they getting the resources? I was typically here during the last administration, we were complaining of mining of gold in Zamfara. That has how much of it are we using to develop ourselves? But foreigners are coming, exploiting those things, and they're going away with it. So the commitment on the part of our leader is very fundamental, very genuine. Once we're able to get that political will of our leader working together then we followers, we have no option than to key into it and see how we can develop our continent.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kwende. The program is The Arena, and the business is on every Monday. We want to go for a short break. When we come back, Dr. Munda Yusuf will also give us analysis on what we are discussing. Do join us.
From humble beginnings to the extraordinary, we've witnessed incredible bonds, the rise of legends in the most challenging of times, and the most unforgettable moments that kept us at the edge of our seat. Everything up till now was just the beginning. Legends go head-to-head as timelines have collapsed for the ultimate showdown. Welcome to Big Brother Naija All-Stars.
Proudly sponsored by MoneyPoint, powering dreams. In association with HFM, online trading at its finest.
You're welcome back. The program is The Arena, and what we are discussing today is the speech made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, its implication to African economy. And just like I have in the house, Dr. Munda Yusuf is going to give us analysis of what we just asked on the last question. Doctor, you have said it, political will. You emphasize it, political will. But single currency, is this achievable in Africa?
Now, the good thing about the currency issue is the role that the Afrexim Bank is playing. That is a payment system that is being put in place, such that there will be no need to use dollar or which other currency, foreign currency, to facilitate trade, on the continent. In fact, it's one of the first infrastructure that has emerged as a result of this after. And they have invested and they have gone far about it, such that all African countries can trade with their currency using that platform. So that is one major step forward to deal with the issue of this currency. So at this point, it may not be necessary for now to be talking of common currency.
Okay.
Given what has been provided by Afrexim Bank, to be able to allow for trade, because knowing Africa for what it is and knowing the kind of political leaders we have, for you to get a consensus among them to come up with a common currency is going to be a tall order. We are talking about 54 countries.
Yes.
Look at even within ECOWAS, we have been trying to have a common currency for how many years? ECOWAS was founded in 1975. It's going to 50 years now. And the issue of common currency has constantly been on the agenda of ECOWAS. The last deadline that was given was year 2000. And now it's 2023. So it's so difficult among them, given the kind of political leadership. But now that the development partners are coming to it, that's why the Afrexim Bank, we are likely to see a major change. And people are subscribing to it, and it's also getting support, from the international community. So that for me is a very good one. The second thing that needs to happen is that we need to accelerate the pace of the protocols. There is a protocol on the trade in goods. There is protocol on trade in services. Some progress has been made with respect to the protocol on trade in goods. Identifying the goods that will be fully liberalized, identify those ones that will be partially liberalized, and identify those ones that will be exclusive, that will not be traded at all, depending on what each of the countries have negotiated within the protocol. So I think that has been concluded. But that of the trade and services, there's no much progress yet. And also from my interaction with those who are in the service sector, the level of awareness is very, very low.
That's it.
Because if there is any area where we have strength in this economy, it's in services. The service sector accounts for about 50% of our GDP. And if you look at our professionals, they can stand shoulder to shoulder with any professional around the world. So if they have the opportunities to cross border and to go and practice, they can easily dominate Africa. But the last time I spoke to those who are involved in the negotiations, and I spoke to even those who are in the service sector, they are not even aware that any negotiation was going on. And how do you negotiate trade in services when the stakeholders are not part of it? Those things are very critical because we have a lot of strength in services. I mean, he's an accountant. There's need to harmonize some rules, for instance, across countries. There's need to harmonize professional qualification and things like that. Those things are critical. So that if you are practicing here, you can practice anywhere else on the continent. The same thing with those who are in medical, the same thing with architects, the same thing with engineers. We have them all over. So there's still a whole lot of work that needs to be done in the area of the protocols and awareness creation. But right now, we have a pilot scheme already on AFTA. I think about 4 countries are already doing pilot trading, to be able to, trade on a pilot phase. But the thing has been extremely very slow. Because when you are talking about protocols, it's about consensus. You have to build consensus. I know what it is to build consensus among over 50 countries. The process has been very, very slow. But right now, at least they are doing some pilot trading among a few countries, and they gradually we get there. But it's something that needs to happen, to be able to create more opportunities on the continent and to be able to also create more jobs and make us less reliant on some of these advanced economies.
Now, on the last note you just mentioned, create more jobs. Nigeria has just created the blue economy, the marine and blue economy ministry. We've been having it, but this is the time you have a ministry on its own, taking charge of that. And to create 50 million jobs, according to Mr. President, in the next 3 years, I want to believe blue economy will certainly play a role. Now, we are coming back home now. We've been talking about Africa, what African leaders need to do concerning the speech made by Mr. President. But now in Nigeria, how do you think we also can tap from this? He has made a very beautiful speech. Then what should be our own preparation in getting this foreign direct investment? Looking at the marine and blue economy, looking at the technology that we have, the aviation, and the manufacturing sector. What's your view on that?
Okay, maybe before I respond to that, I just want to chip in something as regards what my Oga said, Dr. Mode. I think the awareness in terms of services seems to be picking up. Maybe I'll speak to my profession. I belong to 2 of them, ICANN and the CITA. I've had opportunity to be part of programs in West Africa, on both parties, and I'm seeing memorandum of understanding, coming up between the professional bodies, Chartered Institute of Accountants in Ghana and that of Nigeria, that of Benin, where you can pick up your certificate, and when you get to Ghana, you can practice.
Okay.
That's on the same ground. I was Wauti, what you attended in Ghana.
Yeah.
I was with them in Gambia too, and we're talking about how can we have a common ground, and there is this MOU too that they are signing in such a way that Gambia was even telling us that the Chief Justice happened to be a Nigerian in that particular period.
Yes.
So they tapped from that particular thing, and they don't see it as you coming to rub it on. So some professional bodies, we don't need to wait all for the government. Professional bodies should start picking up on how to open up that channel. The benefit of it is that if you have more expertise with people here in the country and you develop Ghana with your expertise, you are raising the bar of the whole continent as a one. I just say let me chip that in that at least looking, because after is one of the things that we don't joke with in both ICANN and CITM, because we know that it's going to open up a lot of things for professionals as we progress. On the other aspect that you're talking about with blue and marine economy, for me, first and foremost, the president has been able to expand the scope of things. This is the first time we are seeing the separation of oil and gas, and we know what we're losing in the area of gas. Not sharing it without actually monitoring some of the things, and we still go as much as some of those gas that are supposed to fire into a turbine to generate electricity are not just being there. So in terms of the blue and marine, we have so much of water, waterways around us which we can tap into and see how we can benefit more. Opening these is a challenge to the minister for that particular sector. When you have to start up something, a lot of policy, a lot of procedure, a lot of regulation needs to be established. But I would think that we should get more stakeholders involved. There is this thing that will lack: communication, effective communication with the necessary people that are concerned, not just the very few. You might discover that those that are the lower cadre might have a little to contribute to what you're saying. So expand the base at which people can contribute to the, discourse when it comes to that area. But we are unleashing. It's not only blue and marine alone. Look at the extractive area, Ministry of Steel, which we have Ajakuta fine, there, which we can tap. What stops us as a nation to fabricate some of these steel and start producing our own car? We've seen instances where somebody in part of this country has developed a moving vehicle. The only thing we lack is if you're able to fabricate some of those things. While I was growing up, I know, we know it's in this country that we have the likes of Peugeot, the likes of Volkswagen. Yeah. Because the natural resources is out there, we are able to annex it. If you have those resources and all other components are actually being brought in, it's a plus. So it's a win-win thing. I'm giving you this, you are bringing this, we put it together and we move on. Rather than somebody bringing the whole lot of things. And we must create the enabling environment. It's very fundamental to me, in the sense that if you look at an average businessman now, within the country, it's even difficult for you to get things compared to when you are importing it, even with the cost of high foreign exchange, because there are certain things that are not there. How much are we doing in terms of power generation in such a way that I'm sure an average person who does not have 24-hour supply, we are not even having, how do you expect the businesses to go? The cost of things will continue to go on the high side. So I feel that as we are coming back home, we have everything out there. How do we harness this thing? And the political will on the part of our leader in terms of sincerity. You don't need to, I don't know, I have this personal whatever about leaders. Can we just achieve one thing? Maybe the next 2 years, pick on another thing. But we always be told that they are interrelated. I keep telling in the video that if you solve the problem of power in this nation, you solve more than 70%.
Yes.
Because there are several artisans who have abandoned their place of work. I know there are so many revenue being generated from the informal sector. Where is it today? All we rely on are the multinational, the blue chip company. No, but a lot is being generated from the informal sector. But these days, because there is no availability of power supply, people now divert into other areas that is not contributing, majorly to the economy. So, the political will on the part of our leader, in terms of security, in terms of effective communication among stakeholders that matters most in discourse, will take us far as a nation.
Yeah, we cannot overemphasize the issue of creating an enabling environment. Because even all this trip that the president is undertaking, unless we fix the domestic environment, we are not going to get anything tangible from it. Because investors normally we do due diligence.
Yes.
They find out what is happening on ground. They will get reports. They will talk to investors that are on ground. What exactly are your experiences? That is the starting point. It's a good start by way of marketing, but we need to fix the domestic front. We need to fix our macroeconomic issues. We need to fix our structural issues. We need to fix our security issues. They are very, very important. And I would also like to see a situation where domestic investors are also getting as much attention as these foreign investors. Now, my colleague talked about engagement and getting ideas from operators in the economy.
Yes.
That is very, very critical. All the ministers, the starting point for them before they do anything should have been to engage the stakeholders in their ministry. Talk to them, even no matter how much you think you know. You cannot know better than those who are operators.
Yes.
And because the situation is even dynamic. The problem of 20 years ago is not the same problem today. Unless you speak to those who are on ground, you will not know what kind of advice we even give the president. So stakeholder engagement is very key. And since some ministers, they have been talking, going abroad, they have not even spoken to people who are on the ground. That is very important. And talking about the blue economy, it's a good thing that the president is giving a special attention to it. Because that sector is huge.
Very huge.
But if you look at the data, I was looking at the data in terms of contribution of that sector to the economy. First, it does not even appear as a maritime sector in the Bureau of Statistics report. What you find there is water transport. And the maritime industry is more than just the water transportation. So the activities in the sector are not even properly captured. Their contribution sometimes is not up to 1% to GDP. I say this cannot be correct. With all the importation we are doing in this economy, with all the export of crude and bringing back, I would say maritime sector is contributing less than 1% to GDP. It can't be. I was at one of their forum and I told them, you have to challenge the Bureau of Statistics. This cannot be right. You guys are doing much more than what the record is showing.
But not one thing, you need not to even blame the NBC. It's because of whatever that you are giving us, and this is our statistics, or this is what we have, that the NBC will put together.
That is why I said they should engage them. They should tell them what they are contributing, so that they can have a better idea. I mean, we import so much in this country. 90% of the import is coming by sea.
Exactly.
We have shipping people, we have freight forwarders, we have dock workers, we have all these truck people.
And you're contributing less than
so little. I said no. You know, then we have to also mainstream indigenous participation in the sector. If you look at all the shipping lines, they are all foreign.
That is the area.
They are foreign owned. You can't find solid Nigerian shipping line on ground. You know? And we had the cabotage law, which was supposed to create some room for our indigenous players. You know? So that any movement within our coastal waters should be reserved for indigenous players in that sector. But because the law has a small provision that the minister can give waivers, the waiver has now become a default thing. It has become a norm. So that most of our players in the sector are not just operating on the fringes. They are not in the mainstream of that blue economy. Oh, that has to change. We are exporting so much crude. How many of our people are involved in the shipment of those crude abroad? We are importing so much PMS, all of that. How many of our people are involved in the importation of these things? You know? And there's a lot of value when you get your own people to be part of the process. Yes. When they make money, the money will stay here. Yes. They will help their families. They will donate in mosques, they will donate in churches. Yes. They will do all sorts of things. We are our brother's keeper by our culture. But when you have a very big opportunity and you allow people to come from outside the country and dominate the sector, that is not right. So much so that even the cabotage that was put in the law to create opportunity for people is also being compromised. So the administration has to do a lot in terms of making sure that our people in that sector are in the mainstream. They are not just operating on the fringes or becoming spectators in such a very critical sector. It should not happen. I was talking to some freight forwarders. We now have a situation where some of these foreign companies, end to end, they will deliver, to customers. Yeah. In other words, if they pick a cargo from, say, US or UK, they will bring it here. They are the one that will pick it from here, go and deliver.
So not even an intermediary.
No, yes, all our people that are freight forwarding courier, they are cut off.
No.
That thing should not be allowed.
You see, one of the issues or one of the objectives of this program is what we are now, pointing it as it were. We have policies. Do we allow these policies to work? Now, you talk about domestic investors, and that is where we are now. You are a trader. You put your money down, but you are unable to get your investment or your return on that investment at a specific time. These policies, like you just mentioned now, how can we look into that? What do you think federal government should do? Is this to call the minister, to question the minister, or to question the players or the operators?
Mr. Biola, first and foremost, we have so many regulators who regulate nothing.
Nothing, yes.
That's an area me I'm concerned about. I am concerned about. Regulators are to checkmate some of the activities he's saying. Like the one he's talking about in cargo. There are people who regulate the activities of both the foreigner, the domestic people. We have policy in this country that if you are coming in, there are certain quotas you must leave for those in the country.
Yes.
How much of it do we monitor? He cannot monitor, I cannot monitor because we can only have this platform to speak. Like what he has observed, he can only have this platform to speak. But there are regulators that their assignment is to make sure that these are the rules. Are you sticking by the rules? But most of the time we discover that the regulators are the ones that compromise even the set rules. And that's an area that we must definitely look into. Who are the crop of people that will poke into the regulative aspect of every sector that you want to talk about? Be it medical, be it power, be it education. The regulators have a deep, a great work to do. Because we expected that they have deeper understanding of the law that is guiding it. And once you are able to manage yourself and, go against the law without any punishment, it becomes something that everybody will be doing. Just like what he said, a slight on the tune waiver now becomes something people are actually, because we believe maybe you benefit more from a foreigner than your brother that is down out here. These are areas where I feel that our regulators need to work. We will continue to raise it. It's not only in the maritime sector. It cuts across all
sectors. Yes.
The education sector is out there. The power sector is out there. The health is out there. How much of it are we actually doing in such a way to make sure that the set rules? I keep telling people we have the best rule in the world, with the best law, the best policy. Our problem is always implementation. When it comes to implementation, we start giving different connotation to the same words that we have because of our, at times, personal gain that we want to have from it. So for me, I want to the regulators for each sectors to actually be put in place. Let the president look at who are actually monitoring this. And there is one thing he always speaks to, and I love to emphasize it, which I think the current administration is actually picking up, is the area of the fiscal policy. Multiple taxation. He speaks about it, and everywhere I go to, because as a business owner, you don't even have understanding of the number of taxes and levy you pay in a year. And you ask yourself, where are these things? You are just finishing with this, another one is coming up. And as people like us have actually put the chairman of the presidential committee headed by Taiwo Oyedele, that this is something you have been advocating for while you are on our side.
Good.
It's now high time you bring, because if as a business owner, if you have understanding that you have 8 taxes to pay, you can have understanding of when and when to pay. Not that you are concluding one and thinking I'm off the hook, I can make margin. The next minute another thing is coming up in form of levy regulation. If we can speak to that too, I think there will be better growth in our nation with that, because it's another critical thing that is killing the business owner. Kudos to the Federal Inland Revenue Service with the pro-marks of centralizing some of the things that they're doing, but let's know, at the federal, at the state, at the local government, let every business owner have understanding of what is payable, so that you can factor that into your cost of production and definitely know this is the end meat of where you are going.
Is it just, we'll give an example quickly. One of my members, when I was at the Chamber of Commerce, these tax officers came from the local government. It's a laundry business. And they came with a bill of about 350,000 naira for radio and television tax. Can you imagine that? And the guy told them, I don't have radio here, I don't have television here. He said, it is the law. Whether you have it or not, you have to pay. How much is the television itself?
All the transitory.
All the transitory. That's the tax will now be 350,000. You know, I had to get up, start calling the local government chairman, calling the treasury person in charge of tax, doing all sorts of things. Because you are going to lock up the place. And because they have the law behind them. And sometimes they carry 1 or 2 policemen. They lock up the place. Some of them, as little as they have tended to even lock up some supermarkets on Victoria Island. You know? So they do this and they give some crazy bills as a negotiating tool. So that they say, okay, we have been this one, go and pay this one. You know all those funny things. So just as he said, I hope Taiwo Oyedele will address some of these things. Some of those taxes are anachronistic. We don't even need them anymore. I mean, gone are the days now. It was those days when you have this radio that they put on the wall. I don't know whether you are old enough.
Radiogram. I know
that you pay tax
because you are hearing.
You know, those things are outdated. So there are so many of such taxes that we need to do away with.
Your last point before we round up the program. The question now is back home, Nigeria. Mr. President has called on the world leader to come to Africa, come to Nigeria. Now, what is your final word?
My final take, I will take from what Dr. Muda said. We need to domesticate a lot of things, come back home, provide security, make available the necessary infrastructure for businesses to ride on. And I can tell you the creativity is embedded in us. Every sector you have people who are well positioned to grow it. But what we lack is you are the one that provide infrastructure for yourself. You are the one that make the business move. And at the end of the day, the government expect that revenue will come to them. That we know of. So there must be a political will on the part of our leaders in such a way that the business environment can enjoy the basic thing that the taxes are meant for. And with that, you can have confidence to do more as business owner and the economy.
Doctor, can we have your light?
Well, the same thing. Charity must begin at home. If you ask me, charity must begin at home. Once we fix the domestic environment, even if you don't travel out, people on their own, they will come here. Because this country is so blessed.
We have the market.
We have the market, and we have the entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Very rugged, very resilient. What we just need, just as I said, just to create the environment for them, remove all the obstacles, and of course, we transform this economy. Because we have the people, we have the talent that can make it happen.
Thank you very much. You've heard it all. It's now left for you and I to ensure that our policy is well implemented, because that is one area that we are lacking. From Mr. Sesson Ade, I want to appreciate your coming and your submission this night on this issue that we just put forward. And Doctor, I really appreciate you for coming too. Thank you very much. I'll be meeting you next week to have another discussion on another topic of the arena, the business segment. My name is Abiola Ismail. See you then. Good night.